I think we're live everywhere except
The thing says it.
except LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
We're getting errors. LinkedIn's not going live. Uh-oh. See if we can go live. We're live. All right. We got all the platforms, Todd. We're up and going. Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. We won't tell you the date or the time or the year. That way, if you're watching this, it's just Wednesday. But we're here to take your questions. It's Go Live Wednesday, where Todd and I take your questions for about an hour or until the questions run out. While we're getting set up and while people are joining the live stream and we see some welcome messages coming in.
Hello.
That's a pretty cool cat. We got to show that cat. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. While people are getting going, be sure to like and subscribe. Check out the YouTube channel. Don't miss a single thing in there. If you check out the descriptions to the videos, there's links to classes that Todd and I teach and all sorts of fun stuff there. But it is Q&A day, and we do have a few preloaded. I think a few came in earlier this morning. One of our members, so he is a subscriber.
Oh, Zach.
So Zach, Todd, he's in the membership program.
Yeah, Zach, we've seen him quite a bit in classes.
Been in our classes. Good friend of the show. So Todd, we've got him hooked on the flow metrics. Mm-hmm. Best self-study resources for a deep dive into flow metrics and or EBM, aside from your courses, which I recommend anyone considering. So let me take a first crack here. Mm-hmm. If I were to start on flow metrics and I did not want to spend money, I would go to our YouTube channel and watch the EBM series, which Zach, you have access to as a member. I would check that out. There's a whole series that Todd and Will did, right? I think you and Will put together an EBM 101 course. Start there. Mm-hmm. That's a good deep dive. And then I would read Dan Vacanti's book, When Will It Be Done? Those are the two things I would do to start, and then come back when you're ready for more. What do you think, Todd?
Flow metrics. Let's differentiate the two, right? They're two different things, right? So with flow metrics, When Will It Be Done is an absolute must. You need to start there, read that by Dan Vacanti. There's a lot of good stuff. Now, flow metric and Kanban, you really can separate the two. Although there are required, let's say, measurements in Kanban. You can read the Pro Kanban guide. I would go on prokanban.org too, and I would just check out and see what's on there. There's a lot being written there, so I would go check it out and see what's happening there. As far as EBM, Will and I did that series, and we are planning on really diving into some deeper subjects there. We know that there's not a ton out there on it, although if you go on the Scrum.org website, I have been on a few webinars about evidence-based management. Kurt Bittner has written a lot of really good stuff on evidence-based management. So has Patricia Kong. There's a lot of resources on Scrum.org on the website, whether that be webinars or white papers, obviously the evidence-based management guide. So those are my two go-tos for that. Probably more to come there, Ryan, on that subject.
Yeah, probably a really good thing coming, hopefully still this year. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Great question, and good to see you, Zach. Thanks for dropping in. Another familiar face and a member, subscriber to the channel. So thanks for doing that. So hi, friends. Hello, sir. How do you see the layoff events? Any concerns? That's a good question. What do you think, Todd?
So by the way, I'm not an economist. I don't know any of this stuff. Obviously, the world's had a lot of events in the past 2 or 3 years. And I think the layoffs could be as a result of all of those events. And although I will tell you, I read an interesting news article in the morning that was like, by the way, don't listen to anybody because nobody knows, right? So I want to relate this to what's happening with the economy. I'm not an economist. I don't know. I mean, anytime there's a layoff, and layoffs specifically in the tech industry, it's cause for some eye-opening concern. I don't know. I don't think that we have that yet. But I do think that there's just some odd things, odd times that we're really trying to recover from and are still kind of in to some extent. So I don't know. That's about as good of an answer as I have, is that I don't know. right?
I think we're always concerned about the people impacted, right? So I mean, first and foremost, there's a lot of good people caught up in these things. I'm going to make this a little more specific. We are seeing reports where companies are specifically targeting agile groups and then removing them. I think my camera froze. And that's somewhat concerning, right? So, I mean, that's never a fun thing to have happen. But I think, there we go. I think that what we can do is look at the things that we control. Right. And I think that's where I've always, when I've been I spent 20 years as a full-time employee in the Fortune 500 in various companies. And so what I always tried to keep in mind, and here's just advice, because I'm not an economist either. I wanted to always remember that my company is not a family. These are not my friends. They don't owe me anything and I don't owe them, other than that I am trading my time and talent for treasure. The 3 T's of being an employee. I'm trading time and talent, and they are giving me treasure or money or benefits. And that is the deal. And that is always the deal. And so while you're in that position, you're also trying to make sure that you're not at risk. So you're leveling up through training, through books, through podcasts, through YouTube, and you're getting better, and you're networking, and you're keeping your eyes and ears open to opportunity, because you're only trading time and talent for treasure. And if you keep that in mind, and those are the things that you can control, I think you then tend to get through these events a little easier. I've been laid off and been out of work for a number of months. Todd, you've been in that situation as well. It's a struggle. It's uncomfortable. But if you've built your talent, you're always going to have work.
Yeah.
And so I think focus on what you can control. Try to zoom in from the crazy media and the news. Look, the news is just trying to work you up.
Yeah.
Just focus in on your family, focus in on your time and talent, and make that your priority. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah. I think you said it all there. This is a great time to skill up, and to go back to the whole T-shaped thing, right? Yep. You have a skill set, I'm sure, that you're very, very deep in, and then you might have 2 sides. This is a really great time to make sure that you're building some anti-fragility, so that your whole thing isn't agile, or your whole thing isn't just a coder, right? You have a little bit of a dip anywhere there, so that you're diversified enough to have that skill set going into the marketplace if something would happen, to bounce back fairly quickly. So we'll see. I mean, it's early on in 2023 here. I tend to be an optimist, a cautious optimist. Maybe not. Maybe more. I might be more pessimistic, Ryan.
I think which one I am. I think you and I are aligned in that we're realists. We just look at the data and we try to make a new and better decision. And right now, the data is pointing in a decent direction, and so we're going to continue doing what we're doing. But we're always watching, and we're trying to make sure we adapt when we need to. All right. Tomas says, hello. Hello, Tomas. What's up? It's good to see you. Another friend of the show. Kyle. So Kyle Nicholas. Our team used 1-2-4-all in our retro today to solve a problem, and it was one of the best so far. What are some other liberating structures you like to use? Well, I don't know, Kyle. Yeah, I think you were recently in a facilitation class. It wasn't one of ours. I'm sure your instructor taught you quite a few things, right? I'm just teasing you, Kyle. We really like the trainer that you went to as well. My all-time favorite structure for a retro, because I'm kind of cynical and devious. I love the Triz. I think the Triz is very good at exposing issues very quickly. But it's one that, you have to be careful with. You need good relationships. You need good team rapport. I think Triz can be very powerful if you're trying to bring something to the surface and get some action.
Yeah.
What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I think my favorite too. I don't think you should say you have a favorite, but I kind of do. I mean, I'm thinking all over the place here. I think eco cycle planning could be interesting. I think critical uncertainties works really well. Even something as simple as W3, what so what now what. Those are ones that we use a lot. So I think it's not just the structure, but it's how you facilitate it. So make sure to lean back on that, and check out the website or the iPhone app, something like that. As you get more experience with liberating structures, the more, let's say, difficult ones to facilitate, like critical uncertainties or eco-cycle planning, become easier.
Yeah. And I think it's experimentation, right? If you have a structure or an idea in mind that can actually get your team to have a meaningful, deep conversation, you're winning. So I wouldn't rely so much on the structure as the intent and purpose of the event, and then fill it in from there. So, but it's a great question. 1, 2, 4 all is awesome. Todd actually has put me onto this one. Critical uncertainties. I looked at that on the Liberating Structures website years ago and thought, I'm going to pass because it's really complex, but now we use it in our courses. And thanks to Todd, I actually appreciate it now because he uses it really well. And it's a good way to, what I like about it is if you set it up correctly, you can make sense of where you're at, avoid where you don't want to be, and then also kind of come up with ideas around how to either help the situation or maintain it. It's a good one too.
Yeah.
Tomas has a question. So Tomas, this will be interesting because we're going to post this as an individual show at some point, and you're not going to be able to guess the answer ahead of time because you're already going to see it.
Yeah.
So we're kind of ruining this for you. But no, it's a great question though. How many things should we measure to not kill the delivery process and avoid that we focus on metrics, not value?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Ryan, right away, if I feel like you're impeding the delivery process by measuring something, stop doing it. Right. Everything really is about delivery. And so I understand that when we talk about evidence-based management, we have unrealized value, or, your satisfaction gap with your customers, and you have current gap value as it relates to what you currently give your customers. We have to concentrate on our ability to be effective and our ability to deliver something quickly. And if what we're measuring is impeding it, you can be measuring too many things. And in fact, this is like, we like to talk about the product backlog. I like to talk about how delete the measurements that you don't find useful anymore. Stop measuring them. So I think, Ryan, to steal one of your things, I'm thinking about a product backlog here: minimal but sufficient, right? If you feel like you're impeding your delivery process by measuring too many things, stop it.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Minimal but sufficient on all things agile, and I think you'll be okay. I also think there's a few questions that I've asked executives in the past. It's, Ryan, I need this metric. Great. What decision are you going to change or use or take based off of this metric? And if they can't name it, we don't measure it.
Yeah.
I also think the metric should not, it's like the tail wagging the dog. When Todd and I come up with an initiative, we're going to, like the YouTube channel a few years back was an initiative. It was an experiment. We then picked the metrics that would help us decide whether or not it was successful. And so the metrics help us answer a question, not the other way around. And so I think those are ways that you can also prevent the measuring of things from killing your delivery. Mm-hmm. Great question. Arpad wants to know, he has a developer background. Is it easier to get an SM position without any direct experience? So this is kind of related to the layoff question in a way. I'm not a big fan of going this route. I think it's trying to get a Scrum Master position without any direct experience is risky. But it's also, well, then how do I get experience? And so if I were a developer today, I would look for ways to facilitate events, to upskill, to volunteer as a Scrum Master, to fulfill that accountability from time to time. And I would look to build gradually experience in fulfilling that accountability. I would not try to jump in without experience. I think that is it can lead to you becoming more of the Scrum secretary as opposed to the Scrum Master. I think this is a risky path. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah. I will say on the other side of it that I always encourage anybody that is in the software industry to have experience with coding.
Yep.
Learn, even if it's the very basics, because I think that deepens us as a team. So I'm never going to say that I don't think development experience is good. They're two different skill sets, but I think one should know the other. And even if it's not in a depth of knowledge, at least be able to open up an IDE and compile something, or look and understand what an automated test means. Because I think it's important. It makes us collectively better as a team. So even just learning the basics of coding, I think is a good idea.
Totally. Yeah. So keep developing your developer skill set, ease into, get some good practice as a Scrum Master, and then you have the experience to make the jump. Love it. Kyle came back with a follow-up unrelated question. Did we have a good Valentine's Day? Hope it was time well spent with loved ones. Yeah, I actually took my son to wrestling practice. That was my my wife and I have been married for 20 years and plus, or around that. And yeah, we don't. I just try to treat her great every day, Todd.
We don't actually celebrate Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't either. We
got the kids some candy, and my Eagles Super Bowl jerseys came.
Yeah, all right.
So everybody got one of those, a little bit too late, and tried them on with a little bit of sorrow.
Did they all fit?
Yeah, they did.
They're good.
They are pretty cool jerseys. We'll be over it someday.
But Kyle, thanks for the question. We hope you had a great Valentine's Day too. But yeah, we had great days, just not the traditional one you would expect. Are there any plans for a PSM3 prep series like we have? Deeper into Scrum is our PSM3 prep series.
Yeah.
I think if you really dig into the Deeper into Scrum series, it's available for members on the YouTube channel. That is excellent PSM3 prep. We've heard from multiple people that they've digested those videos and they've passed. We're not necessarily teaching to the PSM3, but we're going deep enough that it could be certainly helpful, especially when you look at the stances, the values, and then how we apply them throughout the winding path. I think that is our PSM3 prep series.
Yeah, we even do situational stuff. And if y'all aren't familiar with Simon Rydell, you're missing out. He's a lot of fun and really insightful. He's just got some great takes on things.
But you got to hit that join button on the YouTube channel and subscribe. But that's where it is. Deeper into Scrum. It's been a fun series.
Bunch more videos planned for that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that going. It's about an hour. They're each an hour long, going into a Scrum topic. And by the end of it, we're all just sitting there going
exhausted.
It's like, yeah, I mean,
I know they are. It's exhausting to make those, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun though. We're having a good time with it. But thanks for the question, and yeah, check that out. Let's see. Let's do. How relevant is a Scrum certification these days, especially with recruiters? A lot of peeps getting certified seem to be without practical knowledge of Scrum or Agile.
It's interesting, Ryan, if I can slightly. I understand the undercurrent of people ripping on certs, right? It seems to be a broader thing. It's people just like to go after and attack anybody that has a certification, or attack the certification industry to begin with. It seems like I've seen a lot of stuff posted about that. It's funny because they post stuff about that, but then if you look at the products that they're building, it relates to hey, you go to this, you can pass the PSM2 or something like that. So
yeah.
Like it's funny that's happening. Here's the thing: is the way that Scrum.org intended it, and the way that Pro Kanban is kind of following suit with, is that it's a validation that you've learned something. Right. It doesn't mean that you can practically apply it, but something like a PSM1 is a validation that you at least know the very fundamentals of Scrum. Right. That doesn't mean you know how to apply it. I understand that, but it knows you know them. Now, if you hop up to the PSM3 and you pass the PSM3, you probably know how to apply it. Right at that point. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple, but the grading system there is pretty difficult. That it's very practical and experiential. So I view the certification side of the house as validating learning. It doesn't validate practical experience. I think the only thing that really does is delivery and working on things. But I think when you get to some of the higher level ones, I would venture to say that there is some validation of experience there. What do you think, Ryan?
I think it's how I feel about a college degree. You know, what a college degree shows is that you spent, I mean, I'm going to talk here in the United States. I'm not sure in other countries how it looks, but you spent 4 years studying a topic. You cared enough to show up, and that you're reliable, that you'll show up on a schedule. You'll study hard enough to pass, that you'll do the basics to learn a skill. And that's what it demonstrates. And I think with the Agile certifications, now there's some trash ones out there.
Yeah.
There's some garbage certs that we wouldn't touch or recommend at all. There's others, like we truly believe that the scrum.org series of assessments are excellent. The PSM1 is not trivial. People do not pass that. And people who are really smart and try hard don't pass that the first time. And but to Todd's point, it demonstrates knowledge. The PSM3, I think, comes insanely close to validating experience as well. Because I don't think, I was watching a podcast a few mornings ago where one of the, and I don't remember which one it was, but there's all these different learning journeys and different, third-party Scrum groups. And one of their offerings is this pathway thing. And even the author of it admitted that what they're trying to teach is validated learning, but the PSM3 does a nice job of it too. And what's interesting even about those validated learning tools is that even at the end, they still have people take the PSM1 or the PSM2, like Todd mentioned, to validate knowledge. And so I think it's about the choice. And if you go the scrum.org route, it's globally accepted. It's globally recognized as being a difficult, challenging, meaningful assessment and certification. And if anything, it opens a door, which is also how I view a college degree. It gets you past a check mark in an interview process and gets you to the really interesting stages of hiring. And so for those reasons, I think they're worth it. But can I look at a person with just their certifications and say they're going to be great as a Scrum Master, product owner, developer? No, there's other, unless it's PSM3. I actually would hire a PSM3 without too much debate, but otherwise, no, there's other things we would have to do to validate knowledge and to validate capability. What do you think, Todd? Make sense?
Yeah. Can we just stop the war of it?
When we're teaching a 2-day class, like this week, what do we have, Todd? We have professional Scrum with Kanban that we're doing with Dan Vicanti, right?
Yeah, with Dan. Let's see if
Danger Dan.
Yeah, let's see if I like Dan this week.
Well, and so when we're teaching that,
buddy, not really.
Not really. When we're teaching that class, and here I'll put a link to it if you all want to see what I'm talking about here. We're teaching this course. I'll throw this in the chat. We're not trying to teach you to pass an assessment. We are spending 2 days with all of you who are in the course, working with you on Little's Law and flow metrics and workflow definitions within a Scrum team and all sorts of other things that are going to help you be a better practitioner. And a side effect of spending 2 days with us means that you should be in a good position to pass a test. But we're hoping that the impact of the class is far more than a certification hanging on your wall, that you're actually working with your teams in a more meaningful way. And so I think you got to look at who's doing your training as well, right? I think that's a big thing too. Some training providers teach to a test and they only think they're successful if you pass the test. Todd and I want to see a bigger impact on your team and your company. And I think there's differences there too. Cool. All right. I was teasing Kyle a little bit. I'm glad he laughed about that. Chris is great, Kyle, but we would have given you a better deal. All right. So here's a good question we can, Nicoline, if a big part of being agile is not doing upfront planning, how do we do release planning if marketing wants to know when a product will be done? Can we just cut the first half of that sentence out?
Yeah.
You have to do planning.
Yeah.
And we do forecasting and go ahead, Todd. This is your area.
Yeah. I mean, this has been done for quite some time. And here's the way that I really look at it and try to talk people out of this like gigantic upfront planning effort is, when are you, look, Ray just came. She's
there's Ray.
There's Ray. That's my puppy Ray. Not so much a puppy anymore. She's a year old. Okay, let me circle back on this. How many times did you spend those 3 months gathering all those requirements and you were actually right? Most of the time, not. Most of the time, you're gathering those requirements and then you're following that plan explicitly. And then 6 months, 9 months, a year later, you deliver, and it's not at all what people were expecting. I understand that there's budget involved. So maybe you budget and you say, we would really like to go to market with this new product in 6 months, right? And you leave scope flexible. Now, I have done sessions where we've talked about a product and we've created as many PBIs as we possibly could think of at that time for that product, and then done a forecast on them based off of a team's history or based off of the best that we knew of. And then based off of that forecast, we drive to a budget and a date, and we negotiate scope, knowing that we really want to, that marketing is building stuff for us to go to market with this thing in June. Right. And so if they need to change that could mean changing customer expectations. We want to know that as soon as possible. That's why we're continually updating our forecast. Many times have we gone in and said, let's build a new product. Okay, let's get as many PBIs as we can. Let's come up with a forecast. We have a fixed budget for this, and it's not going to be renewed unless we deliver. And let's do whatever we can and just keep everybody up to date as we get newer and better information. That's what it's all about. Right? That's what it's all about. So involve marketing the entire time. Bring them into your sprint reviews. Let them know when scope is changing. Update, if you're using Monte Carlo, update your probabilistic forecast. That's a multi-item probabilistic forecast using Monte Carlo. And if things start to change on you very rapidly, you need to maybe have harder conversations about dates and things like that. But budget and time is a thing. It's all about scope and negotiating that.
Very good. Great question. Thanks for bringing that one forward. Let's see, Todd, if you can make sense of this one too. Installed version index is a proposed EBM measure under ability to innovate. Would you consider experiments to be an interpretation of installed version index?
I'm not exactly sure what Fred means by experiments, but my interpretation would be no, I would not. So installed version index. It's funny. I think we were just talking about this yesterday, Ryan. I once worked for a place that was a regulated environment, and our ability to upgrade a current deployed version of our product was really cumbersome and difficult. Required a lot of manual intervention. And I was lobbying to make that deployment more smooth and to make it so that you could just hand audit a bunch of changes. And basically, it was easy to upgrade from one version to the next. And I could not convince the CEO to spend the money on it until I got a list of all of our customers and the version that was installed on them, and showed the burden that it was putting on our support team trying to maintain a list of 50 customers that were on 50 different versions of the product. Right. So installed version index would be how many customers are on what version. Because if you find customers, if your current version is version 15 and you find customers on version 7, the ability to upgrade them to version 15 could be quite difficult. So installed version index is going to tell you what customers are on what version and how many are differentiators are different than your latest version. Obviously, the further away a customer gets from a earlier version of the product, the worse off it could be. Now, this is a lot of times deals with on-prem stuff. If you're a cloud application or you're something where people are consuming from the cloud and it's that way, odds are this isn't even a worry of yours, but this is more for like private on-prem type stuff. So I would say probably very different than what you're meaning by experiments, Fred.
You know, the funny side of this one, or maybe not so funny, is that when Microsoft went to sunset Windows 98, right? Keep in mind, Windows 98. It's ancient. They went to sunset it, and major manufacturing companies freaked out. There are still conveyor lines that are running off of Windows 98 that cannot upgrade. Right. And so now Microsoft came back and they're like, well, if you give us a truckload of money, we'll still support it. So there are companies all over the country and all over the world delivering truckloads of money to it's very, very, these support contracts are in the millions to continue supporting because and again, I don't have insight into the Microsoft internal decision making, but along the line that Todd was saying, it's incredibly expensive to have Windows 11 and Windows 98 and teams supporting both. And so if you're willing to spend, $1 million a year, they'll keep doing it, but they sunset that thing. And what was funny was some of the customers could not move. And so now they are paying that price. And this on product installed version index is just so important to watch because the analysis that Microsoft released, and it was in a number of like Wired articles and things like that, they were bleeding money supporting Windows 98, Windows XP, Windows 95, trying to be everything to everybody. And it was billions.
Yeah.
Once they cut it, profit.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what this smaller company, the support was growing. The support staff was growing, and it was costing a lot of money on an annual basis. Hold on a second. I could be with you in 3 days. I got to figure out how to install version 7 because we're currently on 12. And then I can help troubleshoot your issue. Oh, we fixed that in version 9, but we can't upgrade you because of your regulated environment. So
I got to say, I
don't know what the definition of experiment was. But.
I don't like how Apple handles this, Todd. I'm a little irritated by it. They'll just turn your old phone into a brick at some point. Right? They'll just update the iOS until your phone doesn't work, and then you have to move up in your version. But anyways, Todd, it looks like Igor is reading our book and loves it. He's reading about the unordered product backlog right now.
Ooh, awesome.
Thank you, Igor. Fixing Your Scrum. We're glad that you're reading it. That thing's almost 3 years old, buddy.
Jeez, I think it's over 3 years.
It is over 3. People are
it launched in January of 2020.
Yeah.
We met in New York, and then the world shut down.
We got one book of it. I still have like 100 copies sitting in a desk.
Oddly enough, though, if you recall, Brian and I did a book thing in New York for our friend Joe Krebs, remember, for Agile MIC. Then we took a train from about 45 minutes outside of my hometown in Harrisburg. And it was at a brewery that we started talking about YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that we were talking about what was the craft brewed Agile?
Yeah.
That's where we started talking about YouTube stuff. I don't remember much, but I remember that.
I think the brewery had some pretty good beer.
Yeah.
All right. So, Todd, this is another one that's right up your alley. Josh is moving companies for the first time in years as a product owner. Just any general do's and don'ts for the first few weeks as a product owner makes a switch.
Yeah, I was in this position. At the time, the big book on product ownership out there was Agile Product Management. What was it? It's Roman Pickler's book. Was the product owner book with Roman Pickler? I can't remember. I remember it then and post it. What I found, and my take is on this, and this is how I did it, is I made sure that I was decisive, right? I made sure in those first few weeks, people knew who decided the order, right? And people knew what my expectations around being a product owner is, and I could fulfill that. I was there to maximize value, and I was there to be a decision maker. But I was trying to be humble, right? And trying to make sure that the developers were behind me. So I think that you can't go too fast, too hard. One of the things I will go hard at, though, is that I thank you for your opinion. This is the order that I decided for this sprint. So I tried to be firm, and I did refresh myself. I think that Don and Ralph's book would be a pretty good one. The Professional Product Owner.
So
is that the right time?
Roman Pickler has a few out there that I like. Strategize is a newer one that Roman has. His original one was in the Mike Cohn series, and it is called. It's been a while since I've looked at this one. Agile Product Management with Scrum. So both of those are really good. Todd likes Don and Ralph's book in the Scrum.org series. I'm a huge fan of Bob Galen's product owner book that I think is in now the 3rd version. I think Bob Galen's book is excellent as well. I think when I see product owners coming into new companies, and I've seen this a number of times, the ones that I've appreciated, they come in and they say, look, I totally get why certain decisions were made, and we're going to make different ones, or we're going to continue down the path, but they're not trying to be critical of what was done before they showed up. right? It's just honor the fact that people made the best decisions they could with their talent, with their knowledge, with what was going on. And when you get in there, observe, learn a little bit, and just be respectful.
Yeah,
and
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking tactically too, Ryan. Tactically, you probably want to get a real good handle and clarify very much what the vision of the product is, and in your terms. And you also want to understand, like you were saying, too, the history and then current business strategy, right? So vision, business strategy, and wrangle the product backlog, right? Get your hands around the product backlog. So just some tactical things.
Let's see. We've got some more questions. Some of them I don't understand, so I'm going to keep moving. How do I deal with a developer who does not keep to the agreement? I'm going to assume that's a working agreement. So unfortunately, this happens, right? Team dysfunction is a thing. Team dysfunction is a thing that Scrum Masters are going to have to deal with. My hope in these situations is always that it's a misunderstanding, that there's some wire that's crossed, there's some assumption, misconception, misperception, and it's an easy fix with a quick conversation. But in the cases where that's not true, I think this is where a Scrum Master needs friends. So Todd is a big fan of saying that Scrum Masters have to pop the Scrum bubble, which means you have to work with other areas of the organization, with leadership, with management, with finance, with HR, with legal. If you have a developer who is just consistently not keeping to the agreement, whether that's a working agreement, the definition of done, or even just upholding what they say, their say-do ratio, right? If they say they're going to pair with someone and help with a test case and they don't show up consistently, I mean, that's still breaking an agreement. I think this is where management intervention, where a Scrum Master needs to partner with management or HR and start working on some kind of performance plan, or start working or getting to the root of what's wrong. Sometimes this person is something's happening to them that we don't know about. Sometimes they're doing things we don't know about. But I think management engagement at some point is the path for this type of issue.
Some people just don't fit certain environments.
Yeah. But we do what we can. Like, we really try to work with people and meet them where they're at and figure out what's going on with them. But to Todd's point, sometimes the ejector button is also the right thing to do. Let's see here. Trying to think about. So they want the Deeper into Scrum series to keep going. We are definitely going to keep it going. Todd, are you still there? Your camera might have frozen. Might have froze there. There he is.
Am I back? What happened? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Let's look here. How about this? El Musico is back. Hello, El Musico. Scrum Master as a consultant, moving through teams after a couple of months in a growing company with many teams starting Scrum and not enough Scrum Masters. What would be your focus in the short amount of time on teams? So let's say, Todd, you have way too many teams. You can only spend a focused amount of time with each team, a limited focused amount of time. What would you do? And let's say we can't solve the situation. Let's just say we have to do the best we can given the circumstance. Where would you look and where would you focus?
Interesting, Ryan, because I'm not certain that my focus would be on the mechanics of Scrum. Can you hear me? Am I still coming through?
Oh, you're good.
Okay, good. I think that the first thing I would say is what's our quality like? The second thing I would say is, are we delivering? And the third thing I would say is, what do our customers think? This is just off of the top of my head right now. I don't care if their daily Scrum is 27 minutes. If all of those things are in shambles, we got a lot of work to do, and I got to make it transparent that that's happening and do the best I can. I don't think that the mechanics might be necessarily it right out of the gate. Maybe eventually, because we can kind of bring those the mechanics of like a sprint review and a retro and those things in. But I'd probably start exclusively from the delivery side of it. What is delivery like with this team? How's delivery going? Right.
That's exactly where I would go to with delivery. Like what are the current barriers? What are the impediments? What's slowing the team down, and try to solve those, or at least point them out to the team and say, hey, I'm going to go over there now. But when I get back, you all need to make some progress on this blocker that I think you can handle. And when I get back, we'll see how you're doing. And, but yeah, delivery focused, not Scrum mechanics focused, as you said. And anything that improves quality or delivery, I'm going to go there and then talk to the other teams and probably do the same all throughout. Todd, I don't understand this. Do you understand this?
Oh yeah. Oh, Joe, if you could send me some Pliny the Younger, you'd be the best. I've actually never had Pliny the Younger. So Pliny the Elder is a widely known West Coast IPA from a place called Russian River, which is about an hour north of San Francisco. I've actually been there before, twice, to that brewery. Super hot wings, Ryan. Really good beer. Never had Pliny the Younger. Would love to try it someday. I think it's only available at the brewery. Although there's a place in Philly that I frequent quite a bit that called Monk's Cafe that gets Russian River stuff. So I do have time, Joe, but just don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Although Ryan and I are going to just more beer talk, Ryan, and I'll shut it down. No, Ryan and I are going to the Netherlands for our friend Will Seeley's wedding. You might have seen Will on some of our YouTube stuff. And are acquiring some Westvleteren 12. So that will be exciting.
I like it. Can't wait to try it. So I've heard about these beers, and we should have a good time in the Netherlands. We'll check those out. Matus wants to know, hello, I'm having my first Scrum Master interview on Monday. Will I get the job? Well, I have no idea, but you are a subscriber and you're watching Deeper into Scrum. And so I would have to say that's increasing your odds, but I have no idea if you're going to get the job, but we wish you well, good luck, and let us know in the YouTube community how it goes. So do well. Elena wants to know, what would you say is the most important question to ask in a Scrum Master interview as a recruiter, and as the applicant to the recruiter?
That's hard.
If I'm interviewing a Scrum Master, what would I ask? It's a good question. So a question that I like, I don't know if it's the best question. A question that I like is, what would you change in the Scrum Guide today? And I think that could lead to a really good conversation. I think that's probably what I would ask. And when I'm the applicant to the recruiter, I would ask a question about the organization itself. Actually, the question I would ask is the management team on board with what you're asking me to do? So I find, maybe a better question would be, who do I report to? Because if I don't report to someone high up enough, I probably won't have the authority to do what I need to do, and then I'll be miserable. So maybe that's where I would go. What do you think, Todd?
This is hard. I'm going to pass, Ryan. I don't know.
It's a tough, question.
Just Elena, you stumped me, I think.
You got Todd. The questions I would ask back would be all organizational based. Like, how are they set up? Do they utilize product owners? Are product owners empowered? I would just want to get a feel for the situation I'm walking into.
Or why the last person leave?
Yeah, why did the last person leave? And what we're doing there is just trying to figure out, Todd and I are old now, and we have fewer, we have limited time left here, and we're trying to figure out, are these the problems we want to spend our remaining years solving? Or are there different problems we'd rather work through? But it's a great question. Hopefully that helps. But I think the question I would ask a Scrum Master, I think Kyle Nicholas just became a member.
Oh, sweet.
Welcome. But I think the question I would ask would be around the Scrum guide, just to kind of poke and prod at where they think there's deficiencies in the guide, and that could lead to a good conversation. Ryan Lockhart.
Oh no, Ryan.
The other Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
What's the last book you read related to work that we would recommend?
We haven't talked to Ryan for a long time. How you been, dude?
Yeah, Ryan's in an interesting place now. We'll have to talk to him soon.
Ryan's a beer nerd too, so he probably enjoyed that Playing the Younger conversation. You know what? Book that I have that is about half peeled open. You can say it relates to work or not, but I tend to read anything by Dan Pink, and he came out with the book The Power of Regret, and I'm a little bit into that right now, which is fascinating. I just like Dan Pink's work. I like the storytelling and the way he does research and things like that. I think it's really interesting to look back, because I think we all have moments in our careers and our personal lives where we like just have those big regrets. So how do you use those for the positive instead of the negative? So I like all of his work. So that's where I'm reading.
So I think this is probably work adjacent. It's not necessarily an agile book. It's more of like character building and kind of mentality building. But Humility by Gavin Ortland is one that I've been working through, like how it's really learning self-forgetfulness. And really trying to, humility defined as not always defending yourself, just a more selfless attitude. I will warn it is from a gospel perspective, but wildly helpful. And I think it embraces this idea of servant leadership and the mindset that a Scrum Master could embrace very well. But again, it is a Christian-based book, but it's one that's helped me immensely in recent days. All right. Let's see. Let me just pick here. I see a member. So again, Kyle, welcome to the YouTube membership. Thanks for joining today. Another member, Zach. We'll pop another question up from Zach. Recently got rejected for not having a safe cert. If they think I can learn more in a 2-day, yeah, they may have more to learn than I do there. It's a fair point. So Yuval Urit and I did a go live this week, and Yuval and I have been working through a YouTube series that's on the channel now called Breaking the Safe. And this came up where I did Yuval's 4-day SPC course and then didn't certify. And my answer was, I've never worked in a safe environment. I've never installed safe. I've never had that experience. And so why would I ever think that I could teach it? And so I didn't certify, so I wouldn't even be tempted to do it. And I think to Zach's point, if not sitting in the class means that I get it. This is the debate in the certification market. I think ultimately, if you're building up your skill set, like we talked about before during the layoff discussion, and you're continuing to progress and advance, good things happen. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't get too worried about this.
That could be a sign that it might not be the best company to work for.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a red flag, right?
Yeah. I don't know the company, so I can't say for sure.
Have we ever considered? Here's an interesting one. Have we ever considered getting the flight level people on our series for videos, like with what we did with Safe? The Safe thing is an experiment.
That's fairly new too. It's new, so
I like the flight level. I think Klaus Leopold is one of the flight level people. I love his books.
Yeah. Jose Cassell, our good buddy.
Jose Cassell is another one.
A lot of it, so it's.
I think it's possible. The safe stuff with Yuval has been popular. A lot of you are watching it and I think enjoying it. And so I think it's certainly possible. If you want to tweet out and connect us up and start saying, "Hey, Klaus, you should do this," I certainly wouldn't mind talking to Klaus. So, yeah, but you all have to drive it. If you can make it happen online, we'll certainly consider it.
And also, please remember, we try to control our whip, even though we have done a really poor job of that the past few weeks.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Cool. But yeah, great question. We tons of respect for that group, and they do good work, and it's certainly a possibility. What would you do if your team asked you to stop using Scrum as a framework? Woof.
I think it depends. I mean, is this? Here's the thing. Here's the reality of it. Is this team delivering with high quality to customers that are happy? And if so, what is going to keep them doing that if they're moving away from Scrum? But I mean, if you ask them those questions and they have a really valid reason why they wouldn't be using Scrum anymore, maybe it's no longer complex. Maybe they've turned the corner and there's not any more unrealized value to be had with a customer, and we're going into kind of a maintenance type of situations. I don't know. I want to know the reason why. That's what I would. I don't think we can get up on our thou shalt always.
Yeah.
We're a lot more practical than that. We've done this and we understand the implications of the real world.
Yeah, it's interesting. If to Todd's point, the reason is going to be most important. So if they come back and say, well, we feel like Scrum is just used to control us, then they're probably right to want to stop. But another idea would be, well, it keeps exposing the poor quality of our product. Well, then we shouldn't stop Scrum. We should figure out our definition of done and sort through the quality issue. And so it's so contextual, right? Mm-hmm. If we're hiding an impediment, if we're hiding a dysfunction, Scrum's not really the problem, and we should knock that conversation off and just dig in and do the hard work of solving whatever hard problem exists. And that's just being a professional. We take on the hard stuff. But if Scrum is really being used in a negative way and we can't solve it, maybe they're right to want to move on. So yeah, I think the question behind the question is far more important here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cleon, another member of our community. Cleon, how you doing? Just joined. Welcome. It's great to see you here. Todd, here's a question I know you'll love from BW. My team is at the peak of Scrum and being agile. They are doing amazing. What can I do next as a Scrum Master? I don't want to lose my job because they don't need me anymore.
Sorry, I just saw somebody said Todd is sleeping right now. I assure you I'm not. Maybe I look like I was sleeping when I'm thinking. So BW, I would say that let's kind of invert things. So your team is doing Scrum. They're doing well. Quality is moving up, right? So this is time for you to maybe pay more attention to adjacent things happening outside of your team, how interactions are happening with other teams, and what's maybe happening in the organization that can further enable agility there, right? Maybe spend more time working with your product owner and understanding market gaps and things like that, rather than just your team. Think broader and bigger, and then continue to go from there.
Can I say something, and I mean it in the most respectful, honest, loving, caring kind of way? I want you to.
You do not need my permission to speak, Ryan.
Well, for BW, I want you to frame what I'm about to say in that context. I don't believe you, right? Unless you have found the unicorn. And I think this is kind of to Todd's point too. What can we start measuring? So if I were in your situation, let's pretend that yes, the team's perfect. They don't need your help anymore. They're just awesome. First of all, I've never seen that. And I'm skeptical of it, but I believe you. I would still install evidence-based management, and I would start working with other areas of the organization, and I would baseline what you think is perfect. Because I'd imagine within a few sprints, you would find things. There's a gap in customer satisfaction. There's an issue with employee satisfaction. There's something, yes, our time to market looks good, but wait a minute, there was this outlier in the cycle time scatter plot that we weren't expecting. Or people are doing a little bit of context switching, and as it turns out, they're doing 70-hour weeks to compensate for it. Right? I think there are things that we can always get better at. And I think using a framework like EBM helps us get there. And so when I say I don't believe you, I don't want you to be upset with me. I want you to take the intent of the comment and say, let's really dig into the data and let's make sure that that's right before we assume that, just because they say everything's good, that it's good. But if you do all the research and it looks like the data is perfect, well, maybe it's time to jump to a new team. Is that fair? I hope I'm not being too harsh. BW, I hope we can still be friends.
And sorry, Pavel, I am awake now.
So Zach has an interesting comment here. Zach, again, a member in the community. Twitter had nearly 50% of the staff leave. I think it was like 75%. I think it was higher. And the platform is still up and running. They're even innovating. Perhaps it's not as sustainable. Who knows? How can an org avoid this potential overstaffed state over time? So I want to avoid the politics of the question. I know that this can be pretty charged. I think all I'm going to say on this is I think it's fascinating with such a mass exit of people that Twitter is still running really well.
This could be geared towards, we have another question below that say, would you think the current market is geared towards delivery instead of facilitation? Yeah. I think we are seeing, so it's interesting. I was messaging with, you remember our old friend, Lucas Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah. He and I were engaged in a conversation about this. Lucas is an awesome dude, by the way, PST, living down in Texas now. Great guy. Really, 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 really smart. And we were just having a conversation. He's like, I'm just starting to see this thing becoming like a product focused thing, maybe even more so than an agile focused thing. And I think we see a shift, and we've seen it kind of happening a little bit. And I think maybe the industry did shift a little bit more to talking about agile and agile transformation rather than talking about product and delivery. That could have happened. I mean, to my vantage point, I think it might and did happen, right, Ryan? Now we're gearing ourselves towards product and delivery. And I think both are needed, but there's always a balance in it. Was that too critical or harsh, Ryan?
No, I think it's right. I think the market is geared. It finally shifted to delivery. Todd and I have always had a delivery first standpoint. That if you're shipping, then you can worry about, the cutest facilitation techniques and, the drum circle retros and all that stuff that people come up with. But you got to be shipping. And I think the market is doing that, is demanding that now. With Twitter in particular, I don't know why they are able to cut over half their staff and still be functional. Time will tell if that's sustainable. I think Zach rightly called that out. But I do think, combining that with this idea that the market's geared towards delivery, I wonder if some of the attrition at Twitter had to do with non-delivery based roles.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see the market shift and say, if you're not directly related to the delivery, execution, and sales of this product, we're not sure what you're doing here. And I think that's good news for Agilists, because we should be delivery focused, and we should be laser focused on making delivery as simple and as frictionless as possible in an organization. Right. I do think other types of roles will suffer. And so maybe this is a shift, and maybe that's what we're seeing at Twitter.
Focus on delivery, honestly. For sure. That's what it is. You have the most creative retrospective in the world and be a great facilitator, but a team not delivering that's the idea behind all of this, is that we improve delivery.
Yep. Love it. Kyle, welcome to the YouTube community.
Yeah, thanks.
It's great to have you.
Yeah, hopefully like deeper into Scrum. I see Boss on here was just in our PAL EBM.
Elena appreciates answering the question. Boss was in our PAL EBM. Boss, hope you enjoyed the class.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Boss.
So we have someone here. Let's talk about this real quick. I'm a recently certified Scrum Master, a CSM, and they're reading a book by the Scrum Master book by Jeff Watts. What do we think of his work? Jeff is awesome. He's a good friend. We love everything he does and have a lot of respect for his new initiative, his Agile Institute, and all the things that he does. So we are big Jeff Watt fans. Would you agree, Todd?
Oh, yeah. All the time. Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah, Scrum Mastery.
Very thoughtful dude.
Yeah, Scrum Mastery, great book, super thoughtful guy.
And is it the guy he does a lot of work with, Paul Goddard? Is that right?
Yeah.
They do the podcast stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Great guys.
Yeah. Huge fans.
Yeah.
I
think that's that a wrap.
I'm gonna look and see if there's a last one that we need to get to here.
Any good softballs for us? Any really nice questions?
Let's see. Okay, so it looks like BW and I get to be friends still. I'm happy about that. she's not mad at me. I appreciate that. And you are very welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate the question. Marco's here. He's sorry he's late. It's okay, Marco. No detention this time.
I disagree, Marco. I'm giving you detention.
Is it worth let's I like this question. Maybe one more, Todd, and then we're going to call it a day. Mm-hmm. Is it worthwhile helping a team to become cross-functional? Just wondering if your services would still be needed if a team becomes cross-functional. I think this is it's interesting to me that this is a question that's popping up more and more. Yes, we're trying to get teams to have all of the skills needed to deliver an increment of product on their own without any dependencies. This is how you move quickly. This is how you win in the market. And I think this is how companies in the future are going to crush their competition. There's such insane bureaucracies built up through org charts and committees and task groups and matrixed organizations. I mean, Todd, we even see 20-person companies just come to a grinding halt because of all the bureaucracy and policy and nonsense. Mm-hmm. If you're in a company that can get to truly cross-functional teams that can deliver without impediment, and whose time to market is excellent, their ability to innovate is on point, they understand their customer and they deliver value, that's winning. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I don't think. Oh, you okay, Ray?
She's doing. Yeah, sorry. Ray's kicking bucks.
Yeah, I think she's sleeping and kicking. She's running in her sleep. Oh, the life of a dog would be amazing, wouldn't it? But I think this is just table stakes. Mm-hmm. And Todd, this probably holds us back in some ways because I don't know if we have all the skills on our team necessary right now to do everything we need to do. Yeah. You know, we talk about this quite a bit with our WIP and with what we're doing. I think we have a great team of contractors who help us, but maybe there's stuff that we should be doing different. This is a topic that's on our minds constantly, right? Are we able to deliver? Do we have the right people working with us? Do we have I would say this is one of our most common conversations, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I think that's why if you see some of our stuff, we have, we're working with Pratik quite a bit. Pratik's going to be doing some stuff around pro Kanban. We're ramping up to even be focused on the software delivery side of this a bit more, right? I became a PST through the software developer track at the time. And we're going to, I think, focus some time and attention on that. So, and then the plethora of everything else out there that like flight levels. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous to talk about them, but I would not be able to advise anybody on those, right? OKRs. We had a couple questions in here about OKRs. OKRs, the idea behind them was good, but I've never seen a good implementation. I don't know enough to go into a company and get them started on OKRs, right? So, it's also that for us, cross-functional is a very broad term because of how many of things out there we want to be cross-functional in. The reality of it is in an organization, do we have all of the skills on this team without anybody and having to interact with anybody to deliver? And that's usually, if that's no, something to work on.
Well, and I think that leads to a good point too, that even your team's cross functionality should be inspected and adapted regularly because your context shifts and changes. The things that Todd and I are working on changes and the people that we need around us will change. And So even looking at that as something that can shift and change without you really realizing it is important too, right? Team composition is something we should look at regularly. Do we have the right people at the table? And if not, how do we get the right people here and still continue to win? Because like I said, this is the ability to deliver high quality, meaningful things quickly. That's the ball game. Like that's what every company should be investing in. If they're investing in anything other than that right now, I mean, in my opinion, they're nuts.
Yeah.
Cool. Great questions. We're a little bit past the hour, but I thought that last question was really good. So thanks for hanging out with us. We hope you got a lot out of this. Always appreciate seeing everybody. We're going to try to make these a little more regular, but
I have to go back and watch and see when I fell asleep, Ryan.
Yeah. No, I think your camera froze for a minute or two.
Oh, did it?
We have hello from Peru. Hello back from the United States. Zach thinks Jeff Watts is incredible. We definitely agree. Jeff is a great person. Osni says, thank you for the patience and the answers. Nah, no patience needed. You all are excellent. And we certainly enjoy interacting with as many of you as possible. We want to thank our new member, Kyle. Thanks for being here. Juan Carlos says, thanks for the knowledge. Hope to see us again soon. We hope to be seen again soon. Marco, Todd's the strict one. I'm not. So sorry you're in detention. But we'll see you soon. But yeah, I think we're going to call this one done. So thanks again, everybody. It's great to see you. And until next time.
See you.